Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Nice to see everybody here in the chat. Go ahead and let me know where you are joining from if you are here watching this live. If you're not here watching this live, there's a link down below to skip to where I actually start talking about things. But let's get started. I have a couple of things to share with you today, and of course going to talk all about the ATEM Mini and the brand new ATEM Mini Extreme, which I'm sure everybody is very excited about, as am I. So, yeah, I see a couple questions already coming in the chat about it. Quick reminder, if you do have a question for me in the chat, make sure you mention my name. And you can also put in question that's supposed to highlight it. Cross your fingers that my extension is working today. I think last time that highlighting was broken, but mentioning my full name, Aaron Parecki, will make sure it shows up nice and bright on my screen so I can see it. Looks like a great crew in the house today. Nice to see everybody here. Yeah, I'm sure everybody's wondering if I have an ATEM Mini Extreme already, and I do not. I'm not that special. I don't think they really send them out ahead of time except to their distributors, and some of the distributors get them earlier than others. Hopefully DVE Store gets theirs very soon, because that is where I got mine from. So I should say ordered mine from. I haven't yet received it. Normally the way this works is the distributors get shipments of them, and they don't really know when they're going to arrive until right before they get shipped. So we don't really know when they're going to arrive. I'm pretty sure Grant said that the Extreme was shipping now, which usually means shipping from Blackmagic's factory to the distributors, and the ISO model was like a week later. I think I heard him suggest. It didn't sound very concrete or like a commitment. So we'll see how that goes. All right, let me pull up the chat, see who we have in the chat, and I know I saw some questions already. There's hopefully there is no power outage today. Portland has had a bit of a storm weather this last week or so. Not nearly as bad as Texas, of course, but last week I had to do my show from home because I literally couldn't get out of the house. The roads were all covered in snow and ice. It wasn't just snow, it was snow layered with ice, layered with more snow, layered with more ice, and that is not good conditions to move around in, much less on a bicycle. That is not weatherproofed. I don't have one of those bikes with the big fat tires. So yeah, I was not about to go anywhere. And even if I did manage to get here, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have been able to get into this room because the door had a mound of snow outside of it too. So that was great. But yeah, my power stayed on last Sunday at home, thankfully. And then Monday morning it went out, and I was without power at home for about 8 hours, which again, I was pretty lucky to only have 8 hours of no power, because I know people in Portland who were out of power until yesterday for the whole week, which is just not okay. So yeah, I really lucked out there. And hopefully with any luck, everything stays on in this studio today. Crossing fingers. I do have a backup battery on this desk. I have a backup battery from my internet, and that'll run for about 30 minutes. So I can survive a brief power outage, and I'll at least be able to say goodbye if all the lights shut off. I have another backup battery that I am going to install right after this for extra power in the network room. We'll see if that helps. But yeah, I got a lot of stuff on this desk that needs power. So yeah, the music. I think I'm going to swap around some of the opening songs at the beginning. I like the one that leads right up into the last like minute, but I think I'm going to change up the first two songs to match that theme a little better. Yeah, anybody mad that they purchased the ATEM Mini Pro 3 months ago, and now I do feel bad for anybody who recently bought one. That said, it's still a very good device. Like, there's no reason to immediately sell it and upgrade. You don't necessarily need the Extreme, and it's actually very large. Like, everything I've seen about it so far, it's a lot bigger than the Mini. So I don't think it's going to be for everybody. I do think there's going to be plenty of uses for the the ISO and the Pro and the Mini still. Okay, I am pulling up my chat on my other screen here. Oh yeah, lots of questions coming in. Yeah, I do have a keyboard underneath my desk at home. That actually is a desk that I built myself specifically for that purpose, where the top of the desk slides back so that the keyboard is accessible. I do not play as much as I should, I will say that. I don't think I'm going to be performing on stream anytime soon. Oh, Rick, thanks. Yeah, if you do use the links down below to purchase the Extreme or the ISO or any ATEM Minis, that really does help me out. It is, it's the only way that this channel really makes money. I don't really do this professionally, but that is how I can keep doing these things on the side. And it does help more than you might think. But no, I don't have any idea because nobody really knows how far these are in the shipping process. Does my rack have enough HDMI pass-through ports? Yeah, that is going to be, let me see if this is going to show you the right camera. There we go. Yeah, this is my Mini Pro, which is streaming this show right now, and I am going to have to, I'm going to be replacing this one with the Extreme. So I'm going to have to do a little bit of reconfiguring of this, but I do have plenty of open spaces here, so I'm going to eat up 5 more of those for the additional HDMIs that go into this little panel. And I might have to move this in front, because I think the Extreme is going to sit like right here. And then I need to, of course, make a new version of my stand for it, which it's going to be a real challenge because the this bar is literally as long as it can be that fits on my printer, and any longer it won't fit. So I'm going to have to either make it in 2 pieces or get somebody else to print it for me. And I don't even know if it's going to be strong enough if I do make it that long, because it's just a bar, and it's like the idea is to put a monitor on top, which is going to then, the longer it is, the more it will bend with the weight. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, that stand, I just saw a picture of it at the warehouse. It hit the warehouse at DVE store. So with any luck, that will hopefully launch this week. Here's a good question, getting into the on-topic part of this show now. How do you set up key and fill on an ATEM with the Hyperdeck Studio Mini? I have 2 SDI to HDMI converters on the Hyperdeck and 2 SDI outs connected to ATEM Mini 2 and 3. That is exactly it. Yeah, that is how you do it. Can I show you how to configure it? I believe I can. So the trick is, yeah, it'll take 2 ATEM ports, and which means on the original ATEM you only have 2 other angles you can use, which is another reason I'm so excited for the Extreme to have 8 inputs, so that using 2 for key and fill doesn't eat up so many. But let me go and show you how to set it up in the ATEM software control to take advantage of that. If I need to, let's see, I need to reconfigure this so that you can see my ATEM, my other ATEM multi-view. And I need to send some, yeah, I would show you my, let's see, I guess I can show you my, what I'm doing here. Where's my wide camera? Oh my gosh, I have too many cameras. I think it's 14, yeah. So I am reconfiguring my ATEM so that I can show you this multi-view, which is that other ATEM not streaming, so I can mess with stuff. So I need to send other cameras there so I can show you this. I'm going to send to ATEM 2. I'm going to send my Hyperdeck fill, and ATEM 3. So that's going to be the countdown. ATEM 3 will be Hyperdeck key. Okay, so now I've got key and fill. I'm going to show you that in a second, which I can do because there it is. Okay, you're looking at the multi-view of my ISO at the desk, which is not streaming this show. It's just sitting over there. And make sure the audio routing is still working. Yeah. So now that I've got my video on input 1 and then key and fill on 2 and 3, if I go over to the ATEM software control, which I ran out of inputs. Yeah, I can't wait for the Extreme. I need more inputs. Computer monitor, at least I can show you it this way. So in here, what you can do is, let me go over to the ISO. And what you're going to want to do is use a, you can do it with a Luma key, for example. So you're going to then choose your fill source as input 2 and your key source as input 3. And if we go back to here, now that that is set, when I turn on the upstream key, there, it actually worked. I have it set as a flying key, so I'm going to turn off flying key, which will then, and then we're going to choose pre-multiply because it's using the key source, and there we go. Yeah, now that's perfect. So if you look closely, actually, let me switch the output to the program. If you look closely, you should see nice smooth edges around those graphics because it's using the key source as the actual white and black mask. So for example, if I turn that back to, if I turn off pre-multiplied and use just input 2 as the key source, so now this is what you would be doing if you only had one feed from the Hyperdeck being pulled in. Now the edges probably look a little bit worse, but you can also sort of tweak it somewhat with the clip and the gain. So there, that's too far, and then that's too far the other way because the numbers are transparent now. So I did have to make the numbers, I did make the numbers slightly above black just so that I could do it with one feed if I wanted to. So I wasn't forced to use two feeds coming in. But you do get smoother gradients. I don't have a ton of gradients in this graphic, or this graphic, but you do get smoother gradients if you can use a key and fill into the Hyperdeck. Cool. Yeah, that was a nice little demo. Let's see. Can I undo this and get back to normal? Yes, I can. Fantastic. That was one of the smoother demos, I think. Any experience or suggestions with HDMI extenders through HDMI? I've never done the HDMI repeaters. No, I haven't used any of those. I've only really done Ethernet extenders and SDI converters. I have heard good things about fiber Ethernet HDMI extenders. However, I have not yet used any myself because I just haven't been able to go anywhere that needs long HDMI cables. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I got these new bulbs. That's part of it. Adds a little bit of depth, I think, so you can see that there's like it's a wall here and kind of add some depth to the shot. Having only just received our speed editor after 3 months, I'm not holding my breath. Yeah, you know, you can never tell with Blackmagic. Now that you can tether ATEM Mini Pro, could that be the Slate GL AR instead of a mobile phone? Oh yeah, so the other very, very cool thing about the ATEM Minis is they launched the tethering feature, which I did a little bit of testing with the other day, just at home to see how it worked, and it is very cool. You just plug in your phone, and as long as your phone can tether its connection, then magically your ATEM has internet over USB. It is super cool. It is, yeah, amazing feature. I believe it should work with anything that can share a network connection over USB. So I haven't tried it yet because I just got it this morning. I have a little USB LTE modem, which I'm going to pop my phone SIM card into and see if that works. Unfortunately, it's a mini SIM instead of a micro, or no, micro instead of a nano, whatever it's not the one that my phone uses. So I have to get the little bracket adapter to extend it. I'm hoping that works because that'd be really cool. And then the other thing that does work is if you have a USB hub, USB-C to USB, you can plug in a hard drive and your phone and record and tether, which is very cool. So I'm, yeah, super excited about that. A friend in Portland got power back on Friday, but still no internet. Yep. Oh, yeah, okay. HDMI extenders through Ethernet. Yeah, so my only experience with that is about 4 or 5 years ago, I was using them for some of the gigs I was doing in like ballrooms and venues. And I never spent very much on these things. Like I got the cheapest models for sure. and they were not necessarily super reliable. So I was seeing like occasional just frame drops, like the screen would go black, it would flicker, and then come back. But like I said, I got the cheapest models. They were not expensive ones. So it was also 4 or 5 years ago. So it probably is better now. But at the time, I kind of like, well, I don't want to trust these because I really don't want the screen to go black during a recording that I'm doing for someone that I'm getting paid for. And then I just started doing SDI for everything instead. Steve says we're looking at 97F today. Oh my gosh, you must be in Australia. You must be southern hemisphere. I don't even think it's that hot in like the hot parts of the US right now. Yeah, we had several days of below freezing in a row, which is very unusual for Portland, and that's why everything kept freezing and all the ice layers built up. The thing that really ruined the situation here for everybody was that the ice would build up on the branches, and it would just layer and layer and layer, so the ice started getting really thick. Adds a lot of weight. The branches would snap, and then they would fall on the power lines and just rip down power lines. Like I went out on a walk on Monday morning just for fun and passed no less than 3 power lines just strung across the street on the ground. Like it was bad news. If you go extreme ISO, would you suggest going down to 30 frames per second? Can a hard drive really do 9 streams at 60? Yeah, it's a good question. You're gonna need a fast hard drive for sure because it is a lot of streams. But what is it? 9 streams at, I think they're all 70 megabits per second. So that's 630 megabits a second, but that's hard drives are usually measured in bytes. So that's 78 megabytes a second, which actually doesn't sound that bad to me. SSDs can definitely go faster than that, so that should be doable. I'm very happy with the Pro, but it's not going to stop me from wanting a new toy. Absolutely. Yep. You are getting one because you like changing your studio every month. Okay, so I'm getting one because, yeah, I want one, and I really want the super source feature. That's the thing that, like, honestly, before they mentioned that, I was like, this sounds good. This sounds like they've solved a lot of problems. Don't know if I actually need one. And then as soon as they mentioned the super source, I was like, well, I'm definitely getting one now. That means, because the super source is the thing that lets you do like the 4 videos inside the picture that you can move around and scale independently. And we did the stream on Photo Joseph's channel because he has the ATEM 2ME, which is like $4,000, giant 2U rack mount gear, really noisy machine, and that has super source. So we're using it for that show. But now I will be able to do that here without that gigantic machine, which is super cool. And yeah, the show we're doing this week, the 3 of us we're going to use his, of course, for the first one, because he's the only one that can do, like, I don't have the giant one. I think John has access to one, but I don't know if it's easily accessible, or what, but the, maybe if we keep doing these, we'll be able to rotate who's hosting and I can use my Extreme for that. Be super cool. Regarding the Extremes, I wonder if the USB audio interface is 24-bit. Yeah, they didn't mention anything. If they fix the high contrast, I definitely want to see that. That is also something they probably wouldn't announce during the live stream, so I'm holding my breath for that. And whether it has a de-esser. Interesting. I don't know about I wonder if, yeah, because this is a Fairlight mixer, so I don't actually know if, like, they brought in the Fairlight mixer into this, so I don't actually know if their other Fairlight mixers have a de-esser. Otherwise, I would say probably no. I doubt they would, like, add audio processing stuff that the Fairlight doesn't already have. But who knows? Who knows? Anything is possible. Where can we get a hold of ready-written macros? Download them and customize the XML. Yeah, that's an interesting idea. I'm really on the fence about, like, whether this is actually a good plan to encourage, because I feel like so much of it ends up needs to be customized anyway. And it's it doesn't take long to record them, and a lot of it will depend on like, you know, where in the frame you are. So like if I want to make a little circle picture in picture around me, if I'm sitting over here, I have to do different values than if I'm sitting over here. So like it's super, super, you know, specific to the setup. And I'm just not sure how useful it actually is to like start with one, because it's not that hard to actually create one. Like what I usually do when I'm creating one is I get my software control, I get my scene set up the way I want it, and then I go and I go record a macro, and I just re-click everything I did. So like that's already active. I'm just going to tap it again. That's already active. I'm going to tap it again. I'm going to go toggle here, go click, click, undo that, right? Check that one, uncheck flying key, and I'm done. Now it's saved. So then if I want to go and like, I probably want to actually rearrange it so that that on air was the last action. Then I can go save that XML out, and I know it's going to do exactly what I want. Whereas like, I don't know, it's kind of hard to actually read the XML and make sense of it. Where's mine? So like, here's one where if I'm just reading this if I didn't create this myself and I was then reading through this, it's gonna take me longer to figure out what each one of these does than it would to just create this from scratch. That's my thoughts on it. Like, because these don't necessarily line up with the names that you see in the interface either. Like key cut input is actually key source. Key fill is the fill source. Key cut is actually called, it's called this over here. So if you're looking through these, it's like, well, what does that mean? What does that mean, right? So I don't know. For me, it's easier to just make one of these and then go into the XML and then like rearrange them if I need to. So like I'll move that to the end, and then I might copy a macro sleep from some other macro I used it in, add a 1 frame delay there. Anyway, that's my take on it. I'll definitely get an extreme ISO, but we'll hold off until there's solid companion support for it. So, okay, here's the thing, is that all their ATEMs run the same software inside. It's all the same like stuff inside. So it's just a matter of like how many upstream keyers there are, how many downstream keyers there are, and things like that. So I'm guessing that if you, for example, told Companion that the Extreme was actually a 1ME, most of the features would work. Like you would be able to do almost everything in it. But yeah, anyway, it shouldn't take long for them to add proper support to it, because it's mostly just telling it like how many different components there are inside of it. Yeah, speaking of any idea on whether the Companion will have the new Extreme devices? Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I don't think it'll take long, because it's not like well, so for example, adding the recording on off and the streaming on off, that's something that no other ATEM devices have ever had. So that takes extra work for them. But most of the other features are already things in ATEMs. Make a new stand in 4 parts, 2 ends, and then 2 others for support near the middle. Maybe. It's gonna be a trick getting it around the little HDMI connectors though. Cause the way, well, yeah, we'll see. It's gonna take a lot of thought about that. Think about NATO rails to connect the side pieces for the new stand will help you connect some other gear. So yeah, the other thing that I've been thinking about is what it would look like for Small Rig to actually build one of these. So I sent them some sketches too, but I don't know how that's going to go. We'll see how it goes. It'd be very cool if like everything was just screw holes everywhere, right? That'd be really cool. But that's not going to be out for a long time if that even happens. Can you talk a little bit about the web presenter? Is there a benefit over getting an Extreme versus adding a presenter to a mini ISO setup, assuming we don't need additional inputs? Yeah, good question. I didn't really talk much about I didn't talk about it at all in my video that I did on Wednesday, but I talked about this with Photo Joseph a bit. The new web presenter, I think, is a very, very smart move for them. The big thing that was missing from like the minis the Mini Pro and the ISO came out, which all of a sudden made those devices, frankly, a lot more powerful than the larger ATEM switchers because of the recording and streaming capabilities built in. And now with the web presenter, you can actually add recording and streaming to or not recording, but webcam and streaming. You can add it to any device now. So I think that is their sort of precursor to launching the new replacement products for that middle tier, which I keep talking about how there's how their website, if you look, there's pretty big glaring gap here now. There's the Constellation. Those are looking pretty outdated, and now that they've got all these minis up here. So I think we're going to see some updates here next. This one I'm less sure about now, but I think these are going to get some updates. But yeah, I'll come back to that in a second. I did just see a super chat from Keith. Thank you very much, Keith. And I noticed my lights changed. Are you going to cover your Blackmagic Matrix? Yeah, this is, it's been super, super handy because of dealing with all the limits of having only 4 inputs into the ATEM Mini. And what I'm curious about is how much I'm going to decide to route things permanently into the ATEM Mini Extreme or still run all 8 through the Matrix. So I gave you a little sneak peek of that a second ago when I was reconfiguring my let me get the chat out of the way. When I was reconfiguring my other ATEM to show you the demo, and oh, now I lost my little picture-in-picture toggle. Yeah, so when I was reconfiguring this other ATEM, I was showing you reassigning the inputs into that. I need to redo my wiring first of all because like it's not organized, but I do have at least the first 4 here. These run into the ATEM Mini, and I can then choose like what goes here. So I can choose my computer monitor is in input 4, which is how you're seeing it right now. Input 2 is the multi-view of the other ATEM, but I could change that to be, for example, my wide camera, which I forgot to label, but it's here. And now I can show you that, right? So I get virtual inputs I get more than 4 by being able to reroute things electronically. And it is super cool. I don't really know how to do like a sensible explanation of it. So yeah, I don't know. I'm definitely going to mention it when I do my studio tour because I am so close to considering the studio done. There's like 2 things left before I'm going to say it's done because it's never done, but I at least want it to be done enough to like film. I fix the 1 run of LEDs on the ceiling, and I need to install the pegboard. So close. But let me get back to the web presenter. So yeah, the web presenter is a streaming encoder for any really SDI source, and streaming encoder plus webcam. So it's like they took part of the ATEM Mini Pro and put it into a dedicated rack gear, and I think that's a very smart move. I don't think that's necessary if you're going to add it to a Mini, because like it's basically part of it. They took guts out of the Mini Pro and moved it over to the side so that you can use it with regular rack gear. It's kind of like if you were to buy an ATEM Mini Pro to use as the encoder and webcam for a larger ATEM, which does work, but it's not rack mountable really. So this is now like a rack mount solution for that, which I think is super, super awesome for people who are building out rack versions of this stuff. So I don't know if you would really gain much by adding a web presenter to the Mini ISO, because really all that would do is give you like 2 webcam outs. But, and even then you have to run you have to like go HDMI out from the Pro into that. So you would lose your multi-view. So yeah, I don't think that's a good, they're not meant to be, they're meant to be like solve the same problem, not used together. Will I get the Blackmagic panel to connect to the Mini Extreme? No, probably not. It's very, very expensive, and I am pretty happy doing everything with the Companion and Stream Deck instead of their fancy panels. I jaded a camera 3 and an ATEM Alpha on a HDMI 2-to-1 switcher. So with the click of a button, I can change to camera 3. Yeah, that's another good way to do it. So these little HDMI switchers are kind of like a small version of the Matrix that I have, which definitely can work. And I was going down that road and then realized I would have needed too many of them. But if you're trying to just add one angle to your 1 or 2 angles, you can get those HDMI switchers that are like 2 or 4 to 1 to be able to swap out what is going into one of your ATEM inputs. Of course, you can use another ATEM for that as well. I think Photo Joseph did a video, what was it, yesterday or the day before, about exactly that. But yeah, you can definitely chain multiple ATEMs together too, which I think would be a more reliable solution than the little switchers, because with the ATEMs, it would be seamless. Whereas with those switchers, it's more like physically unplugging a wire. Best way to add a third HDMI video camera to the YOLO box so I don't have to take my ATEM Mini into the field also. Yeah, so same idea, right? Where the those little switch things would work, but they're not instant. It'll take a couple of seconds before the video signal syncs up. So it's not, you wouldn't want to use it if you're cutting between those two. You wouldn't want to do it. You have to go back to your first angle and then swap it, let it sync up, and then switch back. So probably not the best for switching between 3 cameras, but like it does work fine if you're like, oh, I need to switch what graphics generator is being used, switch between a computer and like a different computer or something. But honestly, the ATEM Mini, like the cheapest ATEM Mini, I think is a really good solution for adding more cameras to the YOLO box, just because it is essentially a 4 to 1 switch that does work seamlessly. So super cool, I think. And I just saw another super chat. Thank you. From Mike. Is there anything like the Smart Video Hub that is HDMI in and out? I have a basic HDMI matrix, but not with a nice UI. Yeah, thanks for the super chat. I tried a couple of or rather, I looked at a couple. I tried one HDMI matrix, and the one I tried had it was, again, the cheapest one. It had no fancy interface. There was a Windows program that you could download, but I was like, I don't know if I trust it. Plus, I don't really want to have to use my Windows computer for this. And that's why I ended up returning that one. A couple of the other ones that were a lot more expensive, like almost double the cost, some of them had web interfaces. So you could pull up a web page after you load up the IP address of that device and then switch from there. So that's close. It's definitely better than pressing the physical buttons on the device. But yeah, I haven't seen anything like to the level of the Smart Video Hub. Oh, no, that's not true. There is one that was like the same price as the Video Hub. And I'm like, well, at that point, I don't trust HDMI enough to go spend $2,000 or $3,000 on an HDMI matrix. So that one, I think it has a lot more of the features. So yeah, at that point, like I was just, well, I should just go SDI anyway, because it is a lot more stable and a lot more reliable. Hopefully it gives you some ideas. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. Also from Martin, is there a way to get more robust color profiles that we use in DaVinci for live events? Not totally sure what the question is here, but I will say that I have been now experimenting with color grading on making a LUT for my Blackmagic camera. So because I have the Blackmagic camera, you can load a LUT into it. If you don't have that camera, you could get a HDMI field recorder where you can load LUTs into it. Actually, if you have SDI cameras, they're the new, it's under the desk, the new SDI to HDMI converters from Blackmagic can also, you can load LUTs into there as well. But yeah, so what I've done, what I did was I went into DaVinci Resolve, graded my camera to match my G7, and then loaded that back into the camera, so then it outputs a graded signal. So when I'm looking at the feed from that camera, it now matches what you're seeing here a lot closer. And that's sort of the how you have to do it if you are doing live events, right? Where you're gonna have to do it as a LUT so that your camera, you can tweak the colors live rather than doing it in post. But yeah, thank you for the super chat. And oh my gosh, there's even more. Thank you, Sam. I appreciate it. And from Nathan, do you think it'd be possible via a firmware update for the ATEM Pro Extreme to add the ability to host class compliant USB audio interfaces? Ooh, that's an interesting one, because they've got tethering, which I never thought I would see, and USB drives. So they could definitely host an audio device, even like plugged into another hub. The question is whether their audio routing will be able to pull audio from that. It's an interesting question. I think there's a chance. I think there's a chance that it would be possible. I think they would need to have some pretty compelling workflows to add that, though, because that's definitely like a whole different. Yeah, because then they have to they have to add a new audio thing here, right? Where there's like a new source. So it'd be like USB audio show up there, which would be really cool. I could see that being useful for using USB microphones, right? Because there's a handful of really good USB microphones out there, and it's kind of too bad that you can't use them right now with the ATEM right now. But yeah, I think that possible, but I think it'd be a stretch. It would depend on, I don't know enough about how their audio routing internally works, because it is sort of this, hardware, reprogrammable hardware inside, it's not just a computer inside, so not totally sure. But yeah, thanks for the question. Where was I in the chat? Let me scroll back up. Can I reset companion? Stream Deck opens on page 15. Oh, never goes orange. It's orange to me. So let's see how my name is highlighted orange there. It's because it's mentioning me. And if actually, if people are mentioning you, I think you'll see it as orange as well. I don't know why the Stream Deck is opening on page 15. No idea. Sorry. Oh, Martin, thank you. Would you be willing to do a 1-hour consult with my nonprofit? We were running youth suicide prevention production events and have great lighting equipment, but have a few issues. I really appreciate the super chat. I have been thinking about doing this, about doing some, 1-hour slots people can book. I'm not set up to do that right now. I will say both Photo Joseph and John Barker now are set up to do one-on-one consulting. So I highly recommend talking to either or both of them because they are set up for it. The Photo Joseph's link is, I'm going to drop that in the chat. Where is it? There it is. photojoseph.com one-on-one. And then John Barker is doing it too. So let's see if he links it from his homepage. Otherwise, he can drop a link in the chat. Yes, I found it. And then here is John's. I'll refer you to them for now, but I appreciate it, and I am getting a lot of inbound requests for this, so I'm definitely considering doing this as well. Okay, scrolling back up here. Oh my gosh, so many chats today. Okay. A friend asked if your Hollyland Mars 400 would transmit through floors. The studio is on the first floor and they want to set up a switcher on the second floor. That is an excellent question. It will probably depend on the material of the floor. And I say that because that's what determines whether the signal is going to go through it or not. There's a chance. There's a very good chance that it would work. But if it's like concrete, probably not. So it depends on the building. It does use the same part of the spectrum as Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. So if you have a device that's like a Bluetooth microphone or Bluetooth or like a Wi-Fi hotspot you can set up, you could test to see if that signal can get through. Because if that can't, then chances are the Hollyland also can't, because it is the same spectrum. But yeah, it'll totally depend on the building, what the building is made out of. Did I just see another super chat? I did, from Randy. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. You all are very generous today. When you uninstall the switcher software for upgrade, do you actually reboot the computer before doing the new install on Windows? Oh yeah, I keep forgetting that the Windows version asks you to first, you have to uninstall the old one, and then it asks you to reboot. I don't update my Windows one very often because I mainly use this on my Mac, but every time I've updated on my Windows machine, I have definitely not rebooted the computer. I don't have the patience for that. So it seems to be fine. I don't know exactly what I'm like messing up by doing that. Probably maybe it's like the Photoshop integration or like the video capture driver that it uses or whatever, but it seems to be fine. Seems to be fine. And thank you for the super chat. All right, I'm scrolling back up. I'm gonna try to catch up on the chats. Would you bring the Extreme to a conference recording someday, or will it be set on the desk and never move? Well, so far, I am sitting at my desk and I'm never moving, so that's one part of the answer. Someday, if I can record a conference again, I think there's a good chance I would bring it, depending on the conference. The fact that you can do now 8 ISO recordings with it, and which is like super great for redundancy of being able to, mix your cuts again later. Having 8 inputs means you can do a lot of graphics work, and having the 2 outputs means you can also run, like feed a projector, for example, in the room. The kit that I built out of the TV studio, which is the one from the bicycle video I did, which is now a year and a half old. Been a long time since I've done that. That kit, it was a TV studio, so I had multi-view on the device, and then I have the aux out to feed a projector. I had to then also add a bunch of gear to it to make it have all the features of the ATEM Mini Extreme. So the streaming encoder, the hard drive recorder, the Hyperdeck, so I record that on. So I think that the Extreme it's so much smaller, and I can do so much of that I probably actually would very, very strongly consider bringing it, depending on the gig, of course, because if I don't need to feed a projector, then I might only bring a Pro, because if I don't need the extra aux out. But yeah, I'm looking forward to like having a chance to do that again soon, so that I can start putting together a kit for that. What's the use of the still button in the Mini? Oh yeah, so on the device itself, there is a button that says still, and what that does is it loads, it switches to the graphic that is in your media pool. So if I load in, like you can see on my multi-view, I loaded in that graphic, and now I can switch to it with the still button. So that's what that does. There's also a capture still button in the software control. So if I look at my media pool here, there's a button over down here, which will then capture whatever is in the program and record it to the media pool, so that you could like do a freeze frame of yourself. So if I'm looking at let's see if I do this capture still, now I can switch to, oh great. Now now I can switch to that, and now I'm frozen there, but you can't tell, right? So if you can like pose better, then you could freeze frame yourself in Zoom calls, which is pretty fun. But that was all just with pressing that still button on the Mini. Which light am I using? This is a, what is this? It's up there. You can see the little grid on it. What light is this? Totally forgetting the name of it now. I think I got it from B&H. I'll dig this up. I think I have to log in still. This is weird, watching on TV but chat on iPad, time difference is strange. Yeah, YouTube is not like 100% in sync. I did not know that the USB hub could let you record and get internet through your phone at the same time. Yeah, I know. I mean, I guess it makes sense because it's just hosting two devices, and that is a thing USB can do. USB obviously can't record to a drive and let you plug it into your computer because they don't work that way. But you can plug in a phone and a hard drive to a computer through a hub, so it makes sense that it works on the ATEM too. Hopefully they will allow unused inputs to not be recorded. Yeah, I have noticed that it records all inputs all the time, and if there's nothing plugged in, it just is a file that contains a black video, which is kind of annoying. Did you edit the XML file to have a better quality stream on the ATEM? I'm streaming this at 6 megabits, which is what YouTube wants, so that seems to be fine. I don't really have a use for like the defaults are fine. Like I haven't needed to up to go any faster than that, or different than that rather, because like Hyperdeck high is the maximum at 70, so you can't go any higher than that anyway. And I haven't needed to like be more precise than the default tiers they give you. Yeah, so, super chat from Christian, thank you. I should solve this so I don't have to scroll down every time. Knowing headset has its own bus, do you think there's mixed minuses on its way for the program? Ooh, that is an interesting point. That is a very good point, because the thing that they mentioned that I was surprised about the audio was that the headphone output, you can choose what sources to send there. It's not program out. And I was not expecting them to add that. I was assuming that if they were going to add a headphone jack, it would just be program out. So being able to also choose what gets routed to your program would be super, super cool. And the fact that they did that on the headphone out, yeah, that might be a sign that they're going to enable that for program out too, which would be, or at least USB out. I don't necessarily need it for the program, but it would be super useful for USB output using it into Zoom. You were calculating required disk transfers to the ISO. Can I just check that there's not a file produced when there's nothing used on the input? There is a file produced, but I do believe because it's not a constant bitrate file, it will be smaller than, like it's not recording 70 megabits a second of black, but it will record a file. But yeah, if you do have stuff plugged into each one, that's what I was calculating it based off of. I want the extra media pool and the extra key. Super Source is cool, but when will I have that many guests? I guess I need the 4 more ports as well. Yeah, Super Source is cool. It doesn't have to be just guests, right? It could be like how I'm showing you my computer screen, where if I'm switching to my computer screen, then my picture covers it up. So with Super Source, I would be able to shrink my computer screen off to the side over there, and then also shrink my picture up in the corner, which I think is would be very cool. So then I can show you multiple windows, right? And then you could do the computer, your one camera for like a side-by-side layout if you want, or other angles. You could do a top-down view as well, right? If you're showing something on a desk, you could have your face and the top-down view and another picture. There's so many options with Super Source. It's gonna be so cool. Yeah, were you surprised by the extreme price? I was adding up in my head as the features were mentioned. I was doing the same math. Every time they were like, oh, and then it has this. I was like, okay, well, that's going to add a couple $100. And then it just kept going up and up and up. And then he mentioned Super Source, and I was like, okay, well, this has to be at least well over $2,000 now at that point. And they mentioned the price, and it's extremely reasonable. Extremely reasonable. I don't really understand why they're going so low, frankly. Like $1,000 for the Extreme model without the ISO recording, sure, but $1,000, the $1,000 TV Studio HD doesn't have most of the features of the Extreme. So, yeah. What is the best way to run video commercials through an ATEM switcher? I still think my favorite way to do it is the Hyperdeck because the ATEM can control it. So with the Hyperdeck, you can tell it the Hyperdeck is plugged into input 2, and then when you do a cut to input 2, it will tell the Hyperdeck to roll. So you can queue up graphics and then roll them, and then in your macros you can make it so that it'll switch back after the clip is done. I like that option a lot. There's, of course, a bunch of other ways to get videos to play through it, but I think the tight integration there is really nice. Otherwise, I would at least look for a video player that can work with Companion. That way you can do a lot of the scripting in Companion. So you can make a button for like roll this commercial, and then it will roll that, wait whatever delay, and then switch back to a different angle or whatever it is. Yeah, so what program do you use to open XML files on Mac? I use Sublime Edit. I've just been using it forever. Sublime Text. Doesn't any of them work? Like, whatever. Doesn't really matter. Just don't use Microsoft Word. In the macros, there are some obscure values, such as source ID. I have noticed that. I still do not understand what source ID is. This one shows up in the audio. So if you are doing anything with your audio mixer, it'll have this source ID, and it's like, it's this number, and I've seen one other number in here, which it seems to change if I change my audio input to split mode. So if I go and change audio, if I were to use this feature, then that source ID changes. I have no idea what the numbers actually mean. It's very confusing. Could the super source be a way to present two guests and a presentation? Yeah, totally. That's exactly. Yeah, so you do your presentation off to the side as one of your super source windows, two guests as other super source windows, and then you have a background layer as well, which could be a still image or a video source. It's gonna be some really fun stuff. When they mentioned the new ATEM has gigabit for useful future updates, do you think NDI is coming, or maybe their own protocol for network video? I do not think NDI will come ever in Blackmagic hardware. I think I mentioned it a couple times, but NDI is made by their competitor, and it is not an open source protocol. It is not, they don't charge like a licensing fee for it, but it is not an open protocol. And basically Blackmagic will be tying their development to new tech by doing that, which is not a good plan. But SRT is an open source protocol. There's a chance, a slim chance, but there's a chance that could be something they'd be doing. But the other thing I will mention is that the ATEM Mini Pro right now is an FTP server. So if you have a hard drive plugged in and you record something, you can FTP to it and then pull the file over the network, which is pretty cool. I haven't actually found a need for it myself, but I can imagine some pretty cool workflows for that. And with gigabit, that just means it'll be even faster. Oh, Jason, thank you for the super chat. I am flattered. I appreciate you always sharing your knowledge and experience. Have a great weekend. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Scrolling back up. I do need to solve this. I need a separate window for the super chat so I don't have to scroll my window. Did I see 3 cameras set up for today? You did, and I haven't shown you that yet. So this is my my desk today, and that's my normal camera. And that is another camera, which I should talk about briefly. So I've been getting questions about this because so first of all, let me slow down. That is a that is a Canon Vixia G20. So it's not a new camera. It's a camcorder style camera. And it is actually what I used for most of the conferences I was recording for a long time, because camcorder, it's meant to be continuously powered. It's got clean HDMI out by default. It's got a zoom lens built in, which is actually really great when you want to like have a wide shot, but then also go and zoom into the person on the stage. And not super expensive. I think I bought all of mine. I bought all of them refurbished or used, so they were like $500 or $600 each, which because I needed like 3 of them. Pretty good. So what I was curious about though is this camera, how does it actually compare to like my G7, for example, which is what you're looking at now? So if I let me go reroute my ATEM. I'm going to pull that camera up. Oops. I don't know what just. Okay, I bumped a button. I'm going to reassign input 4, so it's not my computer anymore. Where did I plug that camera in? There it is. Vixia G20. Okay, so now we're looking at. Now we've got the Vixia picture. So what I was curious about is to show like what does that camera look like compared to this. So this is the G7. It's what I normally use for my streams. And I'm very happy with this camera. I like the colors. There's no fancy color tweaks on that camera itself. This is just the default colors in the camera. I set the white balance. I set the shutter speed and everything manually. Oh, I am going to turn off that white light because I can't change the shutter speed of the Vixia to 50. I can only do 60 or 30. And that light flickers at 50 hertz. So I've got this shutter speed set to, I think it's 100. Is that, actually it might be 50. I'm looking at the motion blur. No, it's at 100. So that shutter speed's at 100, even though we're streaming at 60 or 30. But the other camera I can't change off of 30 or 60. So it would flicker otherwise. So turn that off. But this is the G7 and this is the Vixia. Let me get the picture-in-picture out of the way. That's annoying. So it's definitely like different. You can see the coloring is definitely different. Also the angle is different, so it's kind of throwing things off. And I also had to put it too far back so you can see the top of my computer monitor there. Ignore that. But this is the Vixia G20, and I actually think it's doing a pretty good job considering it's not a new camera and it's just a camcorder with a built-in lens. It's telling me it's at f2.2, but I am almost twice as far away from that camera as I am from the G7, so the depth of field is a little bit flatter. So, or wider, that's the word. So more stuff is in focus. Whereas if I show you this, like you can see that light bulb is already blurry, but this one's at 1.7, whereas the G20 is at 2.2. So, but still, yeah, I think it's doing a decent job. Do you want to see the light? Here's the light. That's the flicker I'm talking about, because that's blinking at 50 hertz and the shutter speed of this one is at 60. So we're gonna get rid of that. It's very distracting. But yeah, I don't know. Let me know what you think. Like, I don't know if I would like switch all my streams to this, but as a second angle of the room or something, or if I needed to, if I was buying for the first time, like actually this is not the worst idea, just because these cameras, you can get them used. The G20 and G30 and G50 are all very similar. I think the newer ones have like Wi-Fi built in, which you absolutely don't need. So yeah, it's not bad. This is, yeah, so this is a G20. I think I put a link to it in the description below. But I think it does a pretty decent job. Let's see if I get closer. Oh, that is the light. I was going to try to make it focus on my face better. Just to try to get the see the depth of field, but I can't get it. I don't have any light there. Here we go. Yeah, so now that it's focusing on my hand, you can see the depth of field's actually doing pretty good. Nice little blur on the background there. Now that I'm like at a more appropriate distance to the camera. But if I had better mounting options, I would have put it closer. You can see it's like way back there. Cool. Yeah, gosh, get out of there. Little So it happens when I use my physical buttons on the switcher. But yeah, that's one of the little things I wanted to show today is that camera, because I was getting a bunch of questions about them. I'm actually thinking about selling that camera just because I haven't really been using it since I haven't been going out anywhere, and I have 3 of them. I need to do a whole, like, I'm going to put a bunch of stuff for sale soon. So go to the forum, which is linked down below, and there's like a buy and sell category. That's where I'm going to post stuff. So if you want to get a bunch of my used stuff, which I take pretty good care of, these are 5 or 6 years old, so they've got a little bit of wear and tear, but most of my other gear is totally spotless. I will be posting a bunch of stuff for sale there. And Graham, thank you for the super chat. Look forward to seeing all your new stuff with the new Extreme. Yeah, I am too. Whenever that shows up, it's going to be a lot of rewiring, so we'll see how it goes. All right, what else can I answer in here? I realize we're already at an hour, but we're doing pretty good, and I think I'm just going to keep going for maybe another half hour or so. Maybe I will show you a behind the scenes of this again towards the end. It's pretty much my normal setup now, so nothing super unusual going on here, but it's always fun to get a little peek behind the scenes. But let me take some more questions. We'll see what we've got, see where I left off in the chat. For cameras with only HDMI out and long distance from ATEM, do you know if it's better to use HDMI over Ethernet, or is there a way to use HDMI over SDI? Yeah, definitely HDMI over SDI, in my opinion, is going to be better. There are converters you can get from Blackmagic or Decimator. Both are totally fine. SDI cables can go a long distance. I think actually the maximum length for SDI and Ethernet is about the same, so there's not even like a huge distance advantage to one or the other. Fiber can go way farther, but that's a whole different problem. I think we talked about that one. Do you have an affiliate link for the DaVinci Resolve Speed Editor? Let me see if I do. If you click any of the links, it'll like cookie you too, so that also works. I don't have one for the Speed Editor yet. Does anybody have it listed in stock? Because I know that they are working on getting those. But yeah, I'll see if I'll make a link. But also go ahead and feel free to just click any of the links and it will cookie you. Okay, I'm just going to drop this one in the chat, and then I will update that later to DVE Store as well. Have you tested tethering on the ATEM Mini Pro? I'm having issues with Android Note 9. It turns off and on. Interesting. I tested with my iPhone. I don't have an Android phone. It worked great with my iPhone. The trick is if you yank the Ethernet cord out, it will immediately switch over to the cell. If you plug the Ethernet back in, it does not switch back by itself. So like you have to unplug the USB in order for it to switch back to Ethernet. So I don't know if that's intentional or not, or if that's like not something they expected, but then they might change it later, but that's how it works right now. What would you want to have in the Extreme which wasn't announced besides SDI? I did a whole video about that. Go watch it because there's a couple of things, but definitely go watch that. It's the latest video on my channel. I did on Wednesday. The web presenter can also be ideal for single cam remote interview kits. Yes, that is a great point. The web presenter can stream to a streaming bridge. So if you have one camera you want to send remote, set that up, configure to your streaming bridge, ship it with one camera, and they plug that in and power it on and hit go. And there's even fewer buttons to mess things up than an ATEM Mini Pro. And it's slightly cheaper. It's $100 cheaper. But yeah, that is a great point. Do you expect a cheaper rack version without buttons? It'd be great to use with the companion and Stream Deck. Yeah, so I do think that, again, if you look at the... Oh, I lost my computer screen into the ATEM. If you look at their lineup right now, this rack mount tier looks like it's due for an update because the only other even remotely similar one is the TV Studio HD, which is missing a ton of features. So I do think that we're going to see these updated real soon, and very likely we'll have a lot of the features of the ATEM Mini, but now that they have the web presenter HD with webcam and streaming, I don't think those features would be in any rack mount versions of the ATEM, because it wouldn't make sense for them to sort of take that market away from themselves. So I think we would see updates with the scalers built in, because the none of the rack mount ones have scalers. So the scalers and frame rate converters in the ATEM Mini would be an excellent addition to the rack mount lineup, as would the better green screen, the chroma key, as would Fairlight. None of that's in that ME tier either. So, and then they probably wouldn't add recording because you can just use a Hyperdeck for that. But I think that those three would be an excellent update. And at the rate they're adding upstream keyers and super source, I would now expect any update to that tier to also include 4 upstream keyers, super sources, and all that stuff. Other than SDI, how does the web presenter differ from a Hyperdeck? Totally different things. So basically, if you look at the ATEM Mini Pro, it's a switcher. It's also a recorder to a drive. It can also stream over the network. And it can be a webcam. So it's basically 4 devices all in one. The Hyperdeck is the recording part of the ATEM Mini Pro. And now the web presenter is the webcam and streaming part. So that leaves the switcher by itself, which is why I think that now they released the web presenter, we're going to see just a switcher in that tier. But yeah, the web presenter and Hyperdeck are basically doing 2 of the things that the ATEM Mini Pro does in rack mount gear. Do you believe Blackmagic will ever develop a replay system for sports broadcasters? It's a good question. I don't know enough about what the requirements are for a replay system to really have a good idea about that, because you can do it already with a Hyperdeck, right? You can tell the Hyperdeck to record, and if it's fed back into the ATEM, you can then play back from it immediately. But I don't still know enough about how they expect how you expect that workflow to work. But be cool if they did have something more specifically made for it. Can you explain the select bus on the ATEM Mini Extreme? Kind of. I think I'll be able to explain it better once I actually get a hold of it and actually play around with it. But it's basically I guess it's actually kind of like my SDI router, where it's, I'm trying to look for pictures of the top just to look at it. Where do they have photos on the website? They put all the ATEM Minis in one section, so it's hard to get it's hard to find the photos. I'm just going to look at the press photos. That's what we'll do. The press images. So the top, there we go. Oh, I already had that file downloaded. So the top, the select bus section, my understanding is that, so think of the bottom row as the destination, and then the top row is the source. So if you want to reassign what camera is being used for DVE1, right now there's no buttons for that. Right now you have to do it in the software. So if I go to the software control, it's like saying, okay, my Luma key fill source is main camera, right? Key source is main camera. So in the select bus, it would be like saying key 1 Luma is that, and then key 1, well, chroma. Okay, yeah. So you get the idea, right? Like these are the destinations and these are the sources. So you can be like, oh, DVE1 is now going to pull from camera 6, or my downstream key 1 will pull from camera 5. But like I said, it's a little bit abstract, just sort of explaining it like that. So once I actually get a hold of one and I can show you what you can do with it, it'll make a little bit more sense. As soon as you press stop after recording the studio tour, I will be minutes before you make a change. That is almost 100% guaranteed. Yep. But at some point, I need to actually shoot the studio tour. Otherwise, I'm just never going to get around to it. But I've got a lot of material to cover in it now, so I might have to do it in like multiple parts because it starts back in like November 2019. That's where I'm starting with the story. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Did you consider the smart VideoHub clean switch? Amazon enough connections? Yeah, I did. I looked at the clean switch. I was like, that actually sounds great because then it doesn't have the gap between switching sources. But 12 I knew was not enough once I started adding up what I was plugging into it. So I went with the 20 instead. The extreme models of obviously might need for a matrix switch. I think your needs a bit more complex. Yeah, I think for most people the extreme means you don't need a matrix anymore. Actually, most of what the matrix switch does for me is not just switch out what is going into the Mini, but also what appears on the monitors around me. So like right now, this is a multi-view, but when I do other kinds of work, I actually want this to be my computer monitor. So I can go and be like, oh, now it's my second monitor for my computer. And, oh, it's on the map still. But yeah, now it's my computer monitor, which is very cool, right? So, but for this show, I would rather have it be multi-view. Otherwise, I'm stuck looking at the tiny multi-view up there, which, by the way, that's also attached to the matrix, so I can choose what goes up there. So this is how I do like trainings for when I'm doing PowerPoint presentations and live coding demos and stuff where I need to be able to see what I'm doing on the computer screen. So that's how I have it set up. And then, but then for this, I want that to be multi-view. So I'll switch it back to the ATEM. And then if I'm like recording something on the table over there, I might also switch, this screen to be the multi-view of the other ATEM. And that's what it lets me do, right? Is like switch everything around of what the screens are showing. And then I have I have a monitor under the main camera at that table, which is now a teleprompter. So I don't have a camera to point at it, but my Blackmagic camera has a teleprompter under it. And I think I showed off what teleprompter I was using a couple of weeks ago. And it's got the little Feelworld monitor under it. So I can assign what goes there too. So I can be like, oh, I actually want to see that camera because I'm recording myself. Or if I'm doing a Zoom call, I can make that monitor my computer monitor. So I can just be like, oh, well, now my second computer monitor is going to be over there. And it'll be under the teleprompter so I can look at people in Zoom and see them. And then I have my second monitor over there too, which is, again, usually multi-view for the other ATEM that I'm using there, but I could also go use my computer over at that desk, which is, I think, pretty cool. Oh, and I see my lights turn green. Thank you, Frederick. A great show with useful information. Looking forward to your extreme arrival. Me too. Me too. After the massive amount of how-to ATEM videos you've been putting out, I'm starting to think this is not a user-friendly device. I mean, that's a fair statement. It's not necessarily user-friendly. It is a very powerful device that is very robust and reliable. I would say the YOLO box is a user-friendly device. It is a lot easier to just throw that at somebody and then they'd be up and running. It does take a while to learn the ATEM Mini and how to use it, for sure. Okay. We talked about that. Yep. We talked about some new... Oh, we talked about new ATEM products. I don't think there's going to be a new ATEM Mini anytime soon at this rate because there's already been a new ATEM Mini, the Extreme, and they really need to update the rack mount stuff. So I don't think there's going to be a new ATEM Mini. I don't think they're going to go 4K with it soon. That said, every other prediction anybody has made has been wrong. So who knows? Okay, we are running way over. I'm going to see if there's any great, easy ones I can get to. Otherwise, I'm gonna start skipping questions. I'm sorry. Yeah, this is what I need to do next. Custom chat panel to separate super chats. You know, I already am like pulling out the chats myself through their API, so at this rate, I should just write one that pulls them from that. If using a USB hub, can I connect 2 cell phones with tethering in case one runs out of data? Oh, I don't think so. I don't know what it's going to do if it finds 2 tethering devices on the hub. Interesting point. But what I would do instead is not use USB tethering and instead run over the network to like a Raspberry Pi that is running a bonded connection like Speedify VPN, where that can be the one that knows about multiple internet uplinks and you control it all there. I have a Stream Deck Mini and I want to create moving graphics. Can I choose which graphics to display with the Stream Deck? Yeah, totally depends on what you're using to actually output the graphics. So if you're loading them into the media pool, you don't get animations, but you could swap out the picture using Stream Deck buttons for sure. The way to do that is to record macros that do it. So you record a macro that says like load image 1 into the media player and then write a macro for that. And then companion button triggers that macro. A lot of my macros do that. So when I am like doing the countdown and then the outro, it'll swap the graphic out and all that too. But if you can also make the Stream Deck control some other graphics program like H2R Graphics, where it can send commands to that software, which then might do animations, right? When you use the picture-in-picture in the ATEM ISOs, the recorder file only shows the full screen camera, so I guess all those new 4 upstream keyers won't be that useful in live capturing. Well, no. So the idea with ISO recording is that you want to record only the full screen cameras. That way you can mix it later. You can re-edit later. So that is actually ideal. I would rather record the full resolution of each of the 8 sources to be able to mix the show again later. Thanks for all your hard work. When I grow up, I want to be just like you. Aw, thanks for the super chat. Okay, I saw another good one back here. Have you ever tried using the USB webcam out of the ATEM and put it into the YOLO box USB webcam input? I have. It doesn't work, unfortunately. I think it's because the YOLO box expects a 720 webcam and the ATEM only does 1080. I think that's the problem. We'll see if they update it to accept 1080 webcams, because then it would work, which would be pretty cool. Oh, and Stuart, thank you so much. I appreciate the super chat. Also, Roland is very helpful. Yes, Roland, everybody thank Roland for being in the chat answering questions too. Roland's doing a great job of answering stuff that either people aren't tagging me in or just being generally helpful in the chat. So thank you very much. All right, what else can I get to before we wrap this thing up? Couldn't they add support for a USB to HDMI adapter to give us an extra output? I use one in my PC. That assumes that the USB, it's usually actually not USB. It's usually like DisplayPort over USB-C connector or Thunderbolt over a USB-C connector. There's only a couple things that actually are like USB to video, and those usually have a lot worse performance on your computer as well. All of that also assumes that the video routing works that way. Like, I don't think the ATEM has any ability to send video out that way. So I very much doubt we would see that. You can grab a still of the view before you stand in front of the camera, put that live, walk to the stage, and then beam yourself in. I should beam myself in one of these days. Maybe I should beam myself out of this show. What sort of file sizes are created? I'm looking at extreme ISO, but our events are usually 3.5 hours of video. I don't have my hard drive here to check, but they're reasonable because they are compressed. They're not, it's not like the Hyperdeck where it's recording like ProRes. It is H.264 compressed, so it is, and it's variable. So it'll use less disk space if less stuff is moving or if it's like still graphics. Totally reasonable. I think if you have like a 1 terabyte, it would be no problem to do a 3-hour video, a 3-hour event. If you plug in a drive, it tells you how much time it can record too, so you can check ahead of time. Oh, here's a good one. Blackmagic needs to add their DaVinci text generator software to the ATEM product family. That would be really interesting. That would be really interesting. Oh, and Greg, thank you so much. You're excellent at explaining things in a way that's accessible to beginners and pros. I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you for the super chat. I enjoy it. It's a lot of fun, and I just like chatting about this stuff. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, so many questions. Okay. How do you connect lights to the chat? All thanks to If This Then That. Does it all for me. They're Hue lights set up, so I just went to If This Then That and then connected YouTube and connected Hue. Do you think it's a good idea to use the yellow box to stream to different services with the ATEM Mini as an output? Yeah, I do think that the regular ATEM Mini, the cheapest one without streaming, is a really good combo with the YOLO box because it gives you 4 cameras. So you can use 1 camera wired into the YOLO box, and then 4 you can switch out as the other HDMI. And the base ATEM Mini doesn't have multi-view or streaming or any of that kind of stuff, which is fine because it's just you're just using it to feed it into the YOLO box. Okay, I think I am... Oh, this is an interesting one. My guess is Blackmagic's movie TV business is way down due to the pandemic and the reorienting towards corporate video, which is where all the action seems to be at the moment. Yeah, it's an interesting point. The sort of tabletop style gear does make a lot more sense in a corporate environment compared to like trying to convince people to build video racks in their offices. So it's an interesting one. Do you think Blackmagic will eventually allow defining custom actions on all the buttons? There are so many buttons. I will say, I haven't seen it in person, but the pictures that I've seen, I'm a little bit overwhelmed at how many buttons there are. I feel like they could have toned it down a little bit. There's a lot of buttons. We'll see. If I want to connect my console to PC for streaming using HDMI matrix, what kind of cable do I need? HDMI 2 or 2.1? Depends on the resolution, I guess. But I think like if you're doing 4K at like 120 frames per second, you need the fanciest cable you can find. Let's see, we talked about the select bus a little bit. Sorry if I don't timestamp this, but scroll back a bit, 30 minutes or so maybe. Can you take us through the extreme dual HDMI ports? Will I be able to use it like an aux? Yeah, okay, this was something I noticed, which I was also surprised about, is that both HDMI ports are aux outputs. So if you look at, I don't have my TV Studio in here, obviously, but normally in the TV Studio or any of their other switchers, maybe I can look at the website for them. The Television Studio tech specs, let's look at this one, which is the one I have. So if you look at the back, the output is, it's obviously not HDMI, but there's one HDMI multi-view, and then there's a multi-view, a program, and an aux. And those are stuck doing those at those things, right? So that's always program out, that's always multi-view out. This one's assignable. Aux means you can choose what to send out. So you can send out any of your inputs into the aux, or like the ATEM Mini has output any of your 4 or multi-view or program or preview, or the special pass-through, which is the no delay pass-through from input 1. And both HDMI outs on the ATEM Extreme are those assignable outputs, which means you don't have to use one as program and the other as multi-view. You can do any with any of them. You can decide you don't need any multi-view, and you can have 2 different aux outputs, or you could say you want multi-view on one, and you don't need to record a program on the other because you are streaming and recording to a drive, and you want to feed a projector in a room. That's probably what the first thing I'm going to do with it, which is, well, first thing I do with it outside of the studio, which is I'm bringing in a presenter's slides into one of the inputs, and I want to show it on a projector so I can feed that back out. But then during breaks or when between presenters, you don't want the screen to go black, so you can switch what's being shown on the projector to one of your other inputs, like a video playing on loop of all the sponsors, or just a still frame. So that's a super, super cool feature. And the fact that both of them are assignable means you get a lot of different combinations of workflows. You're not stuck with just one of those types of ways of using it. So you can do multi-view and recording a high quality to a ProRes recorder. You can do multi-view feeding a projector. You could do recording onto a ProRes recorder and feeding a projector and lose your multi-view, whatever. Tons of options. Okay, what else? Scrolling through. The audio input on the ATEM Extreme is a mono input, so what do you accomplish by splitting it? No, it's not. It's a stereo input. That's the trick. So it's a stereo input, so you can input like music or a stereo mic, and if you can split it. So if you do have, for example, if you're running audio from a camera or like a wireless mic receiver, some of them can do like 2 lav mics, and then it shows up on as one cable, like an 1/8 inch cable stereo, where each mic is split into left and right. And that lets you get, one cable into the ATEM, and then you don't want one person's voice on each side. So you can split it back in the software and then mix each mic separately as if they were independent sources. So that's why that is very useful. Now we just got to the point of me showing off that camera. Yeah, the angle is not quite right. So the problem is I can't get that camera here. There's just no, I don't have enough things to mount it. So it's more off to the side, which means the light from here, like the angle is like that, whereas my normal angle is like half of it. So definitely different lighting. But yeah. Why not use the Blackmagic as the main camera? I do use it as the main camera for the table. I just don't have it at the streaming desk here. But I like it for shooting that main A-roll of the videos that I shoot there, like the edited videos. But I guess I could move it over here or get another one. I don't know. The G7 is fine. Yeah, the ATEM Mini manual is still out of date. They haven't updated the manual yet. This lens is a 15mm Leica. It's a very good lens. It is my favorite lens. I think I actually have a link down below that says my favorite lens. Any thoughts on the Mini Extreme not having physical buttons for zoom in the camera controls? I'm not super disappointed. I feel like there's very few lenses that even support that, because it requires mechanical zoom lenses. So yeah. You think the beta for Resolve will ever turn into a full release? You know what's funny about that is I opened up Resolve on this machine. This is my new M1 Mac Mini. And it was like, oh, you should download 17.1 because you have an M1 processor. And I was like, oh, I guess I should. And I can't find it. It's not on their website. Tell us about your Blackmagic camera and benefits in live streaming. The Blackmagic camera I got because I was curious, and I hear very good things about it from everybody, literally everybody who has one. I got the 4K because it's Micro Four Thirds, and I have a bunch of Micro Four Thirds lenses, and I'm not super interested in getting a whole new set of lenses. So that, yeah, that's what I'm using for that. It's over there at the table as the main A camera for that shot. And for live streaming, you have to give it some sort of, you have to color grade it, you have to give it a LUT. So I wanted to make it match this camera. So I was able to do that. Whereas if I had grabbed some other random camera, like actually my side camera here, this is the Sony ZV-1, the colors don't really match, but it's fine because you're not seeing me. It's not like it's showing my face in the shot, really. You're looking at my computer screens and my desk, right? So it doesn't matter that it's slightly off. Like there's not even any of that. This wall doesn't even show up in that shot. It would be pretty far off if I were to put them side by side. So the benefit of the Pocket 4K is that I can grade it, and that means I can actually make it match this camera. So now if I go over to that table, which I'm not really set up for doing that today, but if I were to pop over there, it would look almost exactly the same as this camera now. And I think that's a huge advantage to that. Oh, it's a good question. If you're using Zoom to bring in an interview guest to stream from the Mini Pro, how are you doing mix and minus to avoid sending the guest audio back to the guest? The trick is that you can't send Zoom the audio that you are sending to the stream. So you could use 2 microphones, or you could do your mix minus in your computer. But it's a bit of a trick, and that's why I was wearing 2 headphones last week with Photo Joseph, because we were scrambling at the last second to get ready for that stream and did not go through all the proper steps of testing everything. And I was like, well, I guess we're just, we can do this with 2 different headphones. So that's one solution. What upload speed are you using from your internet company? I have about 20 megabits upload. I think I need more for a smooth stream. 20 megabits should be fine. I'm streaming at 6 megabits right now to YouTube. So YouTube is getting, you can see YouTube is getting, well, I guess 5, but it'll probably change now that I switch camera angles. And if there's more motion, it'll use a little bit more. And YouTube is happy with that. I would not recommend trying to push a 5 or 6 megabit stream if your max is that, but usually twice as much as what you're streaming at is fine. So 20 should work fine. That said, I do have a gigabit connection here, and I can push up about 800 megabits a second if I wanted to. And I have pushed 70 megabits at YouTube, and then YouTube is like yelling at me because it's too much. But I can upload a lot here. Benefit of being in the city. Okay. Okay. What else? I am just going to skip through here. We're going to try to wrap up. Do you ever raise your desk? I do. I haven't in a while, but I can right now. I actually do like standing up sometimes. It's going to change the angle a bit. Do I dare? I don't know if all the cables are set up right for it. Oh, the other camera's getting blocked. How are we doing down there? Yeah. Cable management. That's the third thing left that I need to do, is fix my cables. Because right now it's a giant pile on the floor. Yeah, I do raise my desk every now and then. And it's kind of nice to be able to stand up sometimes. Yeah, don't pull the power. Okay. What else? How are you pulling up comments and displaying? I have a link to a video where I describe exactly how to do that down below. Has Blackmagic fixed the problem where the picture-in-picture buttons reset the size of the boxes? See, I don't think it's a problem. I think it's intentional. I think that's the goal of those buttons. Those buttons are meant to set the picture-in-picture to that position. That's why there's 4 buttons. If you change the picture-in-picture settings in the software control, then if you only press the on-off button on the ATEM, oh, now my other camera is at a totally different angle too, because that one didn't raise up with the desk. But if you press the picture-in-picture on-off button here, it'll use whatever you've set in the software. So it isn't going to reset the picture-in-picture size, but if you press the 4, it will reset it because that's what the button is supposed to do. Okay, sorry, I am skipping through these now because we are way over time, and I do want to wrap up soon. Are those Costco string lights? No, they are from Amazon, and they are rope. It's a set of 3 little rope light hangers, and these are LED Edison bulbs that I got. Can you confirm that the auto button on your Mini sometimes double click, effectively pausing mid-transition? I haven't accidentally double clicked it, but I have intentionally done that, or like slipped and pressed it twice, which definitely does pause it mid-transition. What else? All right. What's the name of the stand of the camcorder? Oh, that little thing. It's a Me photo. I don't think it's sold anymore. I think I bought one of the last ones on clearance from B&H a long time ago. But it's like, there's a bunch of them that look almost the same. It collapses down to about this tall, which is why I like it super tiny. 70.1 is in the support section. It's still beta, so not for sale. That explains it. I've never downloaded Resolve that way. That makes more sense. Thank you. Does the Feelworld on the teleprompter do mirroring mode? It does. That's why I like that monitor. That's the little Feelworld 4K, which I think I have a link for. Not 4K, but it's called 4K. It downscales. It's the Feelworld T7. Here it is. Here's the link. And yeah, this one does do flip. It'll flip horizontal, vertical, or both. And then you can use it as a teleprompter from any input. So your source does not have to know how to mirror, the image itself. So you can use just like Google Docs as a teleprompter if you wanted. Standing up your hair and separation light looks even better. Interesting. It's probably because I'm at a shallower angle to it. So when I'm down here, the light's up on the ceiling, so it's kind of going down. And if I stand, I end up here, so the light angle is shallower. Like it would probably look even better if the light were on the top of that rather than above me. But the link went to the speed editor. I just apparently didn't copy it. Okay. I didn't copy the link. It was the last link I pasted. Sorry. Yeah, the hair light would probably look better if it was back above there, but there's reasons. The one I put it up there so that I can also, it's actually one mount on the ceiling, and then it has one light pointing this way and one light at the table. Do I like my 3D printer? I do. It is the Prusa Mini. It is fantastic. It is small. It is very small. So the biggest it can print is at 7x7 bed, which means I won't be able to print my own stand if I make a new stand that's bigger. But I do like it. It's very easy to use. I have not had any problems with it yet. Cross my fingers. Don't pull your power. Yeah, I think everything is luckily got enough slack in there. Okay, so cool to see do a live desk raise. Yep. Okay, with that, I think we're gonna wrap up here. Sorry I didn't get to all of the questions. There's a ton of questions in here, but I appreciate all of the questions and I appreciate all the super chats, and someday I will be able to answer more questions, maybe next week. Oh, that reminds me, on Wednesday, we are doing a stream with Photo Joseph and Here to Record, and it'll be on all 3 of our channels, so make sure to subscribe here and you'll get notified about it, or go subscribe to their channels too. We will be chatting again about all things ATEM and streaming, so it'll be a lot of fun. It'll be 3 of us, and I'm sure we'll talk about how we're doing the group stream as well, and that'll be using the nice super source feature that will I will be able to very soon use with the ATEM Mini. With that, I think I, again, forgot to give myself an outro button. So I'm going to cue up my, I should keep some music so you have some music to leave with. Otherwise, it's just sort of quiet. Yeah. Okay. Thank you all for joining. I appreciate all the super chats and all the questions. And as always, I will see you in the next one.